Hey everyone, and welcome to the All Elite Zone podcast on YouTube and Twitch. We are here for our Blue Meanie interview with ECW legend Blue Meanie. We'll be joined by him in momentarily. Let me get some stuff settled now. We'll be joined by Sarah as well. Here we go. We got Sarah or Siren.
Then I lost my volume controller.
All right, got everything. So he'll be on momentarily. Now that you've said, you guys are free to ask questions in this. Keep it wrestling related and appropriately related. Not us, but audience.
That makes sense.
Mr. Jacobs in the comments, everyone said I couldn't make it on this morning, but I do have a couple of questions for Blue Meanie I put in the video. Yes, I do have Mr. Jacobs' video, and Chris made one as well.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Here we go. So here we are, as promised, to Blue Meanie. Thank you for joining us, Blue Meanie. It's a pleasure having you on. We've been talking about this for over a month now, I feel like. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm glad this worked out, and I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, I've met you a few times. You were always nice in person, so I'm
thank
really
you.
curious to see how this would work on an interview. But yeah, as we said, we'll be taking questions in the chat momentarily. But I guess I'll start off things. So my first question is, you're famous for the BWO, the Blue War Order, or ECW. So my first question is, how did the BWO become a thing? I know this is probably a frequently asked question, but I don't know the questions. So, and maybe some people watching doesn't know, but how did the Blue War Order become a thing?
It was just a natural evolution of where we were in ECW. Stevie, Nova, and myself have been doing a bunch of parodies. Raven came up with the idea of doing parodies. First me and Stevie did the Fabulous Ones, and then the Blue Meanie Bloods, and then ultimately we did Kiss in '96, which was one of my favorites. But then the natural evolution was, the hottest thing in wrestling was the NWO. So how could we do a parody of the NWO? And new rhymes with blue, and we're like, we could be the blue world order, and it came down to the pecking order of who would play who and all that good stuff. And it was just a natural evolution. So November to Remember '96, we debuted at DCW Arena. It was supposed to be a one night event, a one night thing, and we're going to do whatever. But I think, Paul and Todd Gordon heard the reaction from the crowd of how the fans reacted to, when we came out, and they were like, I think we're onto something here. And the Blue World Order just became a phenomenon in ECW. It was the top selling t-shirt. We were all over the TVs. There was like at least one TV show that, 1 hour of hardcore TV, ECW hardcore TV, that was dedicated to the Blue World Order, which is pretty cool. And it led to Stevie becoming part of the main event of the first ever ECW pay-per-view, where he wrestled, Terry Funk and Sandman in a three-way match to challenge for the to go on to challenge Raven for the world heavyweight title. So it's it was a monumental thing for us as performers and for the company, because it gave us that avenue, to go to pay-per-view. So it was, and here we are, 2024. We're still talking about it. The BWO was included in a video game called Retromania Wrestling. The BWO was in the game. We've had a couple action figures. People still wear the shirts on Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-view, which is pretty cool. Most recently, there was a show in Newark. AEW was in Newark, and some friends who were in the crowd sent me photos of the guys dressed like the BWO at the show. So it's been very cool, to see people cosplay and continue this thing, all these years later.
Yeah, I think the BWO will probably live on forever. Siren.
I was actually, it's funny you mentioned your Kiss entrance. I was wondering, out of all of the entrances that you've done that were musical parodies and whatnot, what was your favorite, and if you had a specific reason as to why?
Oh, Kiss was the ultimate one.
It was so cool.
Yeah, we had done a test run the night before in Plymouth meeting at the Lulu Temple, and just to do it. And the cool thing about the Kiss parody is if you're watching the show and you if you're looking at your TV screen, look to the left, you see a person in an orange T-shirt holding up a sign saying "We want Jer," which is a mutual friend of ours. I have a friend, Jeremiah Evans, who was always ringside. Young kid, orange shirt, holding up sign, "We want Jared." That's a young Tony Khan who owns AEW. Was
No way.
him and his father were at DCW Arena that night because Tony, as a kid, his father said, "If you get good grades, I'll take you wherever you want." And his goal was to go to a ECW Arena. He wanted to go to an ECW show, so he was at the night before Plymouth meeting, and then he went to the ECW Arena the next night. So you see, there's very cool reasons, for the Kiss parody, and just for the crowd reaction. And when I played Gene Simmons's character, and the cool thing about that is, Gene was known for spitting blood and spitting fire, and I was about to spit fire. And in pro wrestling, we have to be a little bit more theatrical, a little bit over the top. But one of my favorite wrestlers is the Great Muta. So when I came out, I did the blood gimmick, but I sprayed the mist straight up in the air like Great Muta, because Great Muta was a huge influence on me. One of the reasons why I did the moonsault, aka the Meanie salt. So it was special in multiple reasons. A, my love for Kiss. B, Tony Khan was in the crowd, and then see, I got to emulate the Great Muta by spitting the mist up in the air, which the ringside photographers weren't really happy with because it went everywhere. But it was a great spectacle. We're all about spectacle, so it's a great spectacle for television.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff from the that you've done that's all I've always remembered throughout the years. My next question is, it's one thing the BWO starting, but going to ECW. So how did you? I know you were trained by Al Snow.
Yes,
I actually looked that up. I really love Al Snow. He's
he's my big brother.
yeah, he's doing a lot of stuff in OVW right now.
Oh, he's doing amazing.
So how did you get into ECW? Being trained by Al Snow, how did that all go into play?
Well, when you get into the wrestling business, you're trying to find your way. Before I became a wrestler, before I started training with Al, I was a wrestling fan. I started watching wrestling in 1982, watching early WWF and then NWA and AWA World Class. I watched everything. But if you watch some of those early ECW shows, like 93, 94, you'll see me in the crowd. You know, oddly enough, Bill DeMott put out his autobiography. There's a photo of him doing a moonsault during the ECW match, and you see me in the front row as a fan in ECW watching him wrestle. So I after a couple of I saved money. I went to train with Al, and then when I came back from ECW, when I came back from Al's school, I just started hustling. Al told me when I was out of school, he's like, I lived with Al for like a year. I lived in the school training with him for a year, twice a day, 5 days a week. He's like, look, you've been here, so it's time to go out into the world and learn how to get your own bookings and learn how to hustle and get your name out there. So I moved back to East and I started going to independent shows. I was always taught, show up at a show, even if you're not booked, find everybody, introduce yourself to everybody, find a promoter, be like, hey, I know your show, you got a full card, but hey, I got my stuff in the car if there's an opportunity. But there's plenty of times where, somebody was stuck in traffic. They're like, hey, Brian, you're on third, go grab your bag. And I'd wrestle. So I started showing up to shows, and like, there's 3 shows. There was a show in Baltimore, a show in West Virginia, and a show in Pittsburgh. And on those shows, Stevie Richards and Raven were on those shows. And it wasn't until like the 3rd show in Pittsburgh where Raven approached me. Well, I went and watched Raven's match. And when he came back from his match, I was like, oh, good match. And he was like, hey, kid, nice moonsault. I was like, what? So I kind of geeked out. And, I was like, oh, man, he watched my match. So the next day, that was night 1. Second night, second afternoon of the second night show, we went out to lunch, and he was like, hey, we got this idea for a character. Stevie's my lackey, but we want to have Stevie to have a lackey, so it'll be a lackey to a lackey. Are you interested? I said, yes. I went, well, I be in ECW. He goes, yeah. I was like, I'm in. He's like, well, you're going to have to wear a half shirt and Daisy Dukes. I was like, but I'll be in ECW, right? He's like, yes. I'm like, I'm in. But and I debuted in October 95, but and the footage of that debut went away because there was an incident with fire, which the whole show got scrapped. So I had to between October and November, Raven came up with the character for the Blue Meanie, where again we were working in Pittsburgh for the same promoter, and Raven goes, hey, did you ever watch Yellow Submarine? I go, yeah, when I was a kid. Do you remember the Blue Meanie character? I go, vaguely. So he's like, oh, you're going to be the Blue Meanie. You're going to, want to paint your whole body blue, but just do your hair and beard and pardon me. And then, you're going to be the Blue Meanie. So from that point, we got to his house and we waited for Blockbuster Video to open, and we ran at the Yellow Submarine, and right there in Raven's living room, we did tape study where we just watched the Blue Meanie character, and then he would have me stand in the middle of the living room, and hey, Blue Meanie, do a promo on this, do a promo on that, and I would just have to improv as my character and do promos. And he brought me to Paul, and I debuted at November to Remember '95, which is kind of cool because BWO is November to Remember '96. I debuted '95. So in the course of 1 year, I had my debut and then the debut of the BWO, and kind of, two of the coolest moments of my career.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate.
Oh, siren.
Okay, cool. I was like, I don't know.
No.
I've never done this before. Okay, this is like my very first time, and I get very nervous.
Don't be nervous.
So you've done a lot of really, really cool parodies. You are like really known, obviously, for the BWO. When can we, see Bullet Club Blue?
Yeah, I don't want to step on those toes.
You have to throw it out there.
Yeah, the Blewett Club, maybe.
There you go.
There was an opportunity. I'm still kind of salty about it, but there was a promotion called Chikara Wrestling. They had a show called the King of Trios. It's like a 6-man tag team tournament, and they had the BWO and Bullet Club on the same show, and they didn't have us wrestle each other. And then I've seen people, Chikara diehard going, well, that wouldn't have made sense. I was like, dude, you had a chance to have a faction from ECW face a faction from New Japan, both essentially, knockoffs of the NWO. Everything's like a knockoff of the NWO. They were doing the Too Sweet, and they were doing all this, that, and the other thing. As they're basically doing NWO stuff, and BWO is the OG parody of
yeah.
the NWO. So they could have had Bullet Club versus BWO, but much respect to the Bullet Club. I mean, they've had a hell of a run. They're over. And they've had all different evolutions of that club. So, yeah, we did. I never really did a thought of doing a parody of that, but it would have been cool. But don't want to step on those toes. It also involve getting Stevie and Nova. And then they're pretty much retired. So I'm the only one still schlepping out there or doing appearances, doing bookings. So
Yeah, that would still been a good. When they still did Be in the Elite, that would have been a good Be in the Elite.
Yeah,
segment or something like that. Like that would have been really cool.
There's endless possibilities. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
King Curry says, "I would die for Blewett Club or Bullet Club Blue in AEW. They have Bullet Club Gold, so
yeah, Bullet Club Blue. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe next time they're in Philly, we'll see.
Yeah. So my next question is: you were in WWE for a short little run with the BWO. What do you think the differences was, or I don't know, like what did you think from the BWO and ECW, from the BWO and WWE?
Well, I mean, BWO was in there a couple times when ECW invaded Monday Night Raw. We went on the Raw to promote Barely Legal and try to get some eyes on the product going into our first pay-per-view. So it's pretty amazing to think that the BWO was on WWE TV in '97, promoting Barely Legal. But then BWO had its run. Stevie went to WCW. That kind of put an end to that. And then we came back together for One Night Stand. And then eventually, they wanted to have an idea. They want to have a jumping point from Stevie going from the TV show Velocity to SmackDown. And Nova had told me at One Night Stand that they were thinking of just having a mini run with the BWO coming back. SmackDown colors are blue and white. Stevie going to SmackDown, it would make the most sense. And we went back and we had a little, I had my feud with JBL there for a second. And then we had a mini feud with the Mexicools. And that was pretty cool. It was cool to that we got to have a 6-man tag on the Great American Bash. Growing up a fan of Jim Crockett Promotions, the Great American Bash was like a huge part of my favorite part of the summer. That was their big event in July. I went to like this when they had the Great American Bash in '85. When they started touring in '86, the first show was in Philly. I got to go to that at Veterans Stadium. So not only to be have the BWO wrestle at a Great American, wrestle again in WWE, but have it be on the Great American Bash, even though it still wasn't Crockett, it was WWE. It was very cool. The difference was, just WWE is a little bit more polished. That the appeal of ECW was that it was a little bit punk rock. It felt when you watched ECW, you felt like you were watching something you probably shouldn't have been watching. Like you were sneaking behind your parents' back to watch something you probably shouldn't have been watching. WWE was like, a little bit more clean cut, more polished. This was post Attitude Era too. So that's just the differences, just difference in presentation. ECW was a little bit more dangerous. WWE was a little bit more safe.
Oh gosh. Oh, I lost it.
Hopefully I find it. I don't know.
Right.
No pressure. No pressure.
Out of all of like your favorite, or out of all the like the little pranks and cheeky janks and stuff that you guys pulled, what was your all-time favorite?
Man, we did so much.
I
We had so
know.
much fun. There's a period with the BWO we just come out and interrupt the match and just parade around and go back out. But I guess my favorite would be when the BWO invaded Times Square during Christmas. And it's a clip I put on my social medias every Christmas. Me and Stevie went around Times Square. We went down to Rockefeller Center, where the people ice skated. We went and right in Times Square, and then there was a moment where we come across a street performer who was dressed as Santa Claus, and this man was not a wrestler. He just saw two guys in half shirt and Daisy Dukes walking around with a camera and goes, "I want to be on TV." Like, "Oh, you want to be on TV, huh?" And then we're like, and we pitched the idea of him taking a Stevie kick. And we're like, "This is what we got to do." And we showed him what it was, showed him what he had to do. And we did like maybe the one that aired was the second take, but this guy dressed as Santa Claus, a skinny Santa Claus might have had, took a full back bump on concrete from a Stevie kick. He's like, "Oh, ho ho BWO," and we're like, shut up. And Stevie kicks him and go, "That's what you get for not getting me a train when I was 9," or whatever Stevie. But it's to walk around in Times Square dressed like the BWO and just watch people who maybe who weren't wrestling fans go, "What is this?" And there's a guy with his boombox singing Christmas songs, and we stand next to him. He goes, "Oh, look, it's Santa helpers," and I forget what he was singing. He was like, I think he was singing "Here Comes Santa Claus" or whatever. And Stevie just grabs the mic and goes, "ECW, ECW, BWO," and the guy's boombox falls over and stops playing. We just look at each other like, and we run. We just ran. It's just, sorry, dude. But that's why we were. We were the merry pranksters of ECW, and we were the comic relief. When there's a lot of craziness in ECW, and you can't have crazy follow crazy all the time. So it would have me, Stevie Nova, come out doing something funny or lighthearted to bring the mood down. So when they went into the next crazy thing, the crowd wasn't burnt out. So we had a very unique role in ECW, and it was pretty cool that they put us in that role because it's hard to break into the wrestling business. It's hard to get noticed. It's hard to have a thing, and then that was our thing, and that's what we did, and that's what made ECW special. There's a little bit for everything. They had the scientific, they had the hardcore. We were the the funny stuff, But we we could be serious too when need be. But yeah, it was a great opportunity. That I was only a year and a half into the wrestling business. When I got noticed for ECW, so I was still green as grass. And for them to take the time to, you know, they continued to train me there in ECW. And I had such a great learning tree, being under, being there with Paul, being there with Tommy Dreamer, being there with Sabu. Al Snow came over, Shane Douglas, Tommy Dreamer, I think I said his name, Terry Funk, Tommy Rich, Tracy Smothers, Little Guido. I learned so much from so many different people. I feel bad. Hopefully, I'm not leaving anybody out, but
just the entire ECW roster.
Yeah, there's so many veterans in that locker room that if you had no choice but to learn, from those folks. Tracy Smothers is one of the unsung heroes of ECW because he would take a lot of the young guys in the ring before the show and do many training camps, many dojos, and have us do calisthenics, have us, run the ropes, train us, teach us psychology. Raven did that too with a lot of guys. He would hold like a class where he'd, put in a tape of Florida Championship Wrestling and show us an old match and teach us what they're doing, what they, the art of selling and timing and promos and stuff like that. It was a magical time. You had no choice but to learn. And if you couldn't learn, I don't know what to tell you,
Yeah. So we have one member of the AZ that couldn't make it today, but he sent in a video.
Sure.
His name is Chris Downs. He likes Blues Clues. So it should be very interesting to see what he says in this.
We shall see.
Hello, Blue Meanie. The name's Chris Downs. I'm sorry I couldn't be on the podcast today for the interviews. So, but I'm allowing this to ask you a question though, and that is, when you're under the Blue Meanie gimmick, how did you dye your hair and your beard blue anyway? Did you use some kind of a semi-permanent hair color like a splat, for an example? If you do, we need to know how you dye your hair blue. That's all I got to say about that.
That would explain the love for Blues Clues. So,
yeah, he was partially right there. I did use, for there's a period I did use splat. There's like an evolution of hair dye. Now I'm naturally white, but now when you have to do your hair a different color, the best way to make it pop would be to bleach it. Every time I had to dye my hair, I would get like 40 40 volume bleach, or I haven't done it in a while, so
it was probably 40.
Yeah, it was 40 volume on the powder and the bleach. Bleach my hair till it's like white, like a sheet of paper, and then you dry your hair, blow dry it, and once it's dry and you bleached it and your cuticles are all open, then you put in the blue dye. So, and because that, your hair's dry, it's thirsty, it wants something. So when you put that hair dye in, it just drinks it right in. It becomes, you walk around looking like a human blacklight, like you're in a nightclub. The only thing missing is like a velvet photo of Jimi Hendrix next to your head, or whatever it is. So, and that's what I would do. I do my, bleach my hair, bleach my beard, which was horrible because the fumes go right up your nose. I'm surprised I didn't have white nose hairs. And then I didn't dye them blue though, but and then you dye the hair, the top, do the beard, and you'd have to do that maybe once or twice a month. The only thing that sucks, at first I used Manic Panic, which is like old school punk rock blue hair dye. But when that would fade to like a green. So, you look like a head of lettuce. But then, you move on to other products. There's one product, I forget, I don't even remember what it was the best blue ever, and they discontinued it. And with much like things you fall in love with, they somehow find a way to discontinue the things that you love. But yeah, and then I moved on to Splat, and Splat's pretty good because it comes with the bleach and it comes with the dye, and that's it's like $10, so I think that photo you have of me, I think that was Splat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a run-in.
I was about to play Mr. Jacob's video, but I think I ended up asking a question that he was going to ask. So if you want to ask one last question, Jacobs.
Sure. Actually, I want to do a little name association here. I want to say a couple of names and just say whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna start with Paul Heyman.
Genius. When you think about everything he's done, he's been around since the 80s. He started in Memphis, went to the AWA, went to Continental Wrestling, and now he's part of one of the biggest storylines of professional wrestling in 2024. Genius. Great with wrestling creativity. I'm a product of Paul Heyman, so and a lot of people owe their career to Paul.
Next name, Gold Dust.
I know. And that's another great parody I did when I was Blue Dust,
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate that, when I did Blue Dust in ECW, went to WWE, brought it back and had a feud, Blue Dust versus Gold Dust. And I was very fortunate that he was very kind enough to let me be a part of his shtick, because after the Blue Dust feud, I became his tag partner, and he taught me a lot. So, and again, another guy who's still going strong in 2024. Amazing.
Yeah. New Jack.
I love New Jack. New Jack's very misunderstood. For everything people say negative about New Jack, I could say he treated me like an equal, and he defended me a lot too. There's a lot of times where, he would pull me aside, give me advice, or, there's a couple times in my personal life where I would have an issue and he stuck up for me, so I love New Jack. I mean, even after ECW, we still talked up until, unfortunately, he passed. We were talking all the way through the lockdown, coming up with ideas of, stuff to do. And I still talk to his family. I love Jack. He was a good part of my life.
All right. Last name on the list, Vince McMahon.
Again, the Walt Disney of professional wrestling. A guy who's easy to vilify. But when you're in a business, sometimes you have to do things in business that aren't popular. People go, "Oh, Vince McMahon killed the wrestling business." Well, everybody who came before Vince McMahon tried to do what Vince McMahon tried to do, except Vince McMahon succeeded. When you look at it, the AWA was on ESPN. The World Class Championship Wrestling was on ESPN. You had Georgia Championship Wrestling on TBS. Everybody had a chance to go national, but failed. But Vince McMahon did it and succeeded. And with that, with success, you had people saying, trying to tear you down. Am I saying Vince is a saint? Absolutely not. Sometimes you do what you think's right for your business. Sometimes it'll be popular, sometimes it won't. But the test of time and his, track record, his longevity speaks volumes to where people look at how many promotions have come and gone. And he was the one constant that where you say, I like professional wrestling. They go, oh, that WWE stuff. It's WWE synonymous with pro wrestling, and that's because Vince McMahon put in the work and refused to sleep.
Very true. Very true.
He gave me an opportunity, I worked there 2 years, was able to support my family and, take care of my family and pay back. Everybody goes, oh, I pay my, every wrestler goes, oh, I pay my dues. Well, families pay dues as well. And my family was supporting me, when I broke into wrestling. I took a big risk. I want to go be a professional wrestler. Oh, you might as well just say you want to be a NASA astronaut, I want to go to the moon. Yeah, we all want to go to the moon. I want to be a professional wrestler. So once I got the opportunity to go, WWE and pay those people back for that's all thanks to the hard work of Vince McMahon.
Yeah, looks like we're almost coming up to an end for this interview. I do want to show one comment from our members, Adam. He says Steve Richards has a lot of creative ideas for you guys. Has come from you. Guys, come from you. Do you think the guys and girls today in the locker room have enough creative freedom, and what were your favorites?
I mean, everybody has an opportunity to get themselves over. Doesn't matter what creative gives you. As long as they give you an opportunity to walk through that curtain and walk down the aisle, you're in complete control of getting yourself over to the crowd. Whether it's knowing how to look at a crowd, how to pace yourself, how to, pace your moves, do your promos. And a lot of times, I feel bad for some of the talent now because I think they're so focused on getting through a match and getting all their stuff in that they don't know how to let a match breathe. It's very important to take your time. I always tell younger guys, if you think you're going too slow, go slower. It takes an audience, 2 to 3 seconds from what they see and what they digest. Something happens, 1, 2, and they go, "Oh my God, what did I just watch?" But if you're hitting people with a barrage of moves and they're not getting a chance to digest it, it becomes a good match should be. Remember when that guy did that thing, and I lost more matches than I've won, but I've tried to do things that were moments or memorable. So everybody's got creative freedom. It just depends on how you utilize it. Every time you walk through that curtain, it's a commercial for yourself. A commercial directly from you to the crowd, to the audience, no matter what you do. You got to utilize that time. They could give you a time, how much, the promotion could say, you got 10 minutes. Here's the person. Here's who's winning, who's losing. And it's up to you, even in loss, to get yourself over or make yourself as noticeable that the next time you come out, people recognize that you put in an effort. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, as long as people recognize you putting in an effort to try to win. It's the most important thing. As long as imagine you're watching hockey, right? And you're just skating around and nobody's trying to shoot the puck into the ice. Or, Ben Simmons here in Philadelphia, he got, a lot of heat with the Philadelphia crowd because there was moments where he could take the big shot or dunk the ball and he would pass it off because he was afraid to, miss. As long as but if you put in the effort and you try to hustle and, rebound and try to, same with thing in the ring. If you look like you're trying to win, you connect with that audience and be real, doesn't matter what creative has, you've gotten over to the point where you could be undeniable to whoever's booking you and, get yourself over for the crowd. Matt Cardona is like the, biggest example of how to get yourself over, post WWE, everything you do every second is vital.
That was really good.
Yeah, I was going to ask you for any of those young whippersnappers out there that may be watching, what kind of advice would you give to them coming into the business besides don't piss off JBL?
I just watch wrestling. Not only watch current product, but watch old stuff too. There's so much good stuff that's out there, and it could be recycled, so to speak. Just you have to eat, live, and breathe professional wrestling. I was fortunate enough that I started watching wrestling when I was 8 years old. I watched it every week. I watched every product. I recorded it. I rewatched it. I bought the magazines. I read the magazines. I read the storylines. I read the interviews. Then I got to the age where I start reading the dirt sheets and learning, insider stuff. And, reading wrestling interviews and people talk about the business, which gave me an idea of how the wrestling business worked. You kind of have to be obsessed with it. You know, it can't be if you approach it like a hobby, it'll just be a hobby. If you approach it like a profession, it could be the greatest profession you could ever do. You just got to find a reputable school, show up, be the first to show up, be the last one to leave, make yourself unreplaceable, you know, whether it's help setting up the ring, help tearing down the ring, help setting up chairs, help put out flyers, help advertise the show, help, you know, back in my day, we would put out flyers, but now you got social media too. Do whatever you can to be a part of this business in the ring and behind the scenes, because you know, God forbid you get injured. If you give yourself a skill to where you're still valuable to a wrestling promotion, whether it's independent or, you know, on TV, no matter what you do, you'll always have a job in professional wrestling. And professional wrestling is one of the greatest businesses in the world. You know, I don't know where my life would be without it. You know, and the fact that I'm here in 2024 doing this interview and I'm still promoting stuff, you know, I'm doing action figures, I'm in video games, I'm doing a whole bunch of other stuff. I just finished recording my own podcast. The Mind of the Meanie podcast drops every Monday morning. We just did our 200th episode.
Wow,
And
awesome.
yeah, it's just, you got to be about this 100%. Now, there's not wrong with, you know, being part-time if you want to come in and have fun and, you know, be a weekend warrior, and, you know, where you got to, you know, as long as you treat the business with respect, you know, you can still be successful. But you really have to be if you want a full-time job of professional wrestling, it's got to be what you are. It's got to be every part of every fiber of your being, you know, to you know, try to get noticed. You know, I made a lot of sacrifices and did a lot of things I probably, you know, most people, you know, had a good paying job, you know, before getting into wrestling, and I could have easily just worked there and did 20 years. I got a, you know, 401k and all this other thing, but I was like, no, I want to be a professional wrestler. And I moved out to Al Snow's gym for a year, and luckily it worked out within the first year and a half, and then going to WWE. But it was what I was and who I am. And, you know, I can show you my yearbook photo in high school, and my teacher saying, good luck in WWF, because they knew I was obsessed with it. It's got to be an obsession, a healthy obsession.
Right.
I like that.
Well, speaking about promoting things, now we're winding down. Where can everyone find you at? I know you're on Twitter. Do you have a pro wrestling team? Where can people support you and listen to you and follow you?
If you would like to support, or if you like to support the let me start that over. If you would like to follow the Blue Meanie on all forms of social media at Blue Meanie BWO, that's Twitter. Still call it Twitter. It's Twitter. I don't care. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok, but not really. At Blue Meanie BWO. If you would like to support the Blue Meanie, go to prowrestlingtees.com/Blue Meanie. Get yourself a BWO shirt, which still sell up there. Mind of the Meanie, my podcast right there, Mind of the Meanie. Go to mindofthemeanie.com. Bless you. Our episodes drop every Monday morning at 6 a.m. Like I said, we just recorded our 200th episode, which
congratulations.
Monday. We had a lot of cool people send in congratulation clips. It's pretty cool, man. To be, you know, 200 episodes in. WrestleMania week in South Philly, I'm going to have an event called Meanie Mania, Thursday, April 4th at McCusker's Tavern on the corners of Swanson and Ritter Street in South Philadelphia, 10 minutes from the ECW Arena. So come on out and hang out with the Blue Guy to kick off your Mania week. But yeah, that's where you can find me. That's how you can support me. You know, and I'm like I said, I'm still having a lot of fun.
Well, all that information will be in the link description below to check out the Blue Meanie, buy merchandise, check out the Blue Meanie podcast. And I also want to thank Podstars for making this possible.
Yes.
This is how this all got stood up. Really?
Yeah, Podstars is an amazing avenue to connect talent with podcasts. So go to podstars.net. That's podstars.net. Register your podcast, and then book Anybody you want there. I'm on there. Ken Shamrock's on there, but there's a bunch of great people on there. But thank you to podstars.net.
If I may recommend anyone getting on there, I recommend getting the Blue Meanie. As you can tell, this interview is really good. So if any podcasts out there, you're looking to book someone, I think the Blue Meanie should be your number one person to get.
Oh, you're too kind.
I agree.
Not winding down. I was supposed to one last comment. Where's your favorite NFL team, Blue Meanie?
Unfortunately, they got eliminated last week, but I am a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. Living in South Philly, grandparents. I watched football with my grandfather. He taught me about football. He taught me how to swear while watching football.
Yeah.
I'm a diehard Philadelphia fan, born and bred. It's just like pro wrestling. It is what I am and who I am. I live and die by my sports teams. A lot of heartbreak, but my number one team is Philadelphia Eagles. Unfortunately, got eliminated, but there's always next year, like they say.
Yep.
So, but I will say this: as the playoffs go on, there's games tonight. I'll be rooting pretty hard I want to see the Detroit Lions do well. Now that my team's out of it, I'll be rooting for Detroit because I am a fan of the underdog. They haven't had success in 32 years. Think about that. And when I saw those fans crying last week, watching their team win their first playoff game, 32 years, I was just like that fan watching Randy Savage and Elizabeth get back together. I was crying right with them. So it just, I love a good storyline, and there's plenty in pro sports as well.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Blue Meanie, for coming on and making this possible.
Thank you. Thank you for believing in me. That's what it is. It's a vote of confidence. I appreciate you taking the time and investing in and having me on your show. Yes,
you are. This year, I want to make it ECW 2024. We've had Sabu on here, but I want to have more ECW guys on here. Mm-hmm. You are the first start of that in this year. So I want to thank you for coming on. I know you probably got a lot of stuff to do during the day. I want to say everyone.
We had a blizzard, so I'm kind of snowed in. So
yeah, that's how I was.
We'll have fun. I'll be watching football tonight. So
if you guys would want to join us, we'll be AZ Canner 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Eastern. Then we'll have our AEW Collision live reaction tonight. And then this interview will be on our Spotify, back on YouTube, and you can check out this thing after it's already live. Thank you to Blue Meanie for letting us have him on. And we'll see you guys later tonight.
BWO for life. Peace.